What's up, guys? You're welcome back. 2 weeks ago, we looked at cost plus contract. We were talking about contractual arrangements, and we looked at lump sum and also the cost plus. Today, we be looking at the variants of cost plus contracts. So we have three types of cost plus contracts. And the first one is the cost plus percentage fee. As we've said earlier in the previous video, that cost plus means actual cost of materials, plants, and equipment used in the construction. So we have the cost plus percentage fee, which is the total amount or the total cost with a percentage fee. So let's give an example here of actual cost to be 100,000, which was expended on the site. And there is an agreement between the contractor and the client for 10% for the management fee. So 10% of this 100,000 will give us $10,000. So you add the $10,000 to the actual cost, which is the 100,000, and this gives us 110,000. So the next one is the cost plus with a fixed fee. So here the management fee doesn't change. In the cost plus fixed fee, the actual cost can vary, but the agreed management fee doesn't change, no matter how the actual cost increases or decreases. So let's say, for example, if the agreed management fee is 8,000, whether the total cost for the construction is 50,000 or it is 150,000, it is still the same management fee that will be paid to the contractor. Another variant is the target cost. The target cost establish an agreed cost at the start. It has a mechanism of a pain share and also a gain share. Let's look at an example here. I have 200,000 as the target cost for a project. So anything that exceeds 200,000, the pain will be shared. Anything that is below 200,000, the gain will be shared. Let's look at this scenario. We have scenario one. Let's say the actual cost is 180,000 that was used on the construction. So the savings here is 20,000, which will be shared by both parties. Usually, it should be 50-50. So the next scenario here, let's say assume that the actual cost for the project is $210,000, which exceed the target cost for the project. So that means the overrun is 10,000, and this loss or this pain will be shared by both parties. Another types of contract arrangement is the guaranteed maximum price. So what is guaranteed maximum price? Guaranteed maximum price is where the contractor bears the cost risks above the maximum price. So there is a maximum price, a ceiling that is being put by the client. And if the cost exceed that, that means the contractor bears the cost for anything that is exceeding the ceiling. So it's a form of cost reimbursement arrangement, but with a cost limit unless the scope changes. So the only way you can only revise the guarantee maximum price is whenever the scope changes. So for example, if the Guarantee maximum price is 500,000, and the scope changes along the way. There can be a revised guarantee maximum price. Guarantee maximum price can be revised maybe to 550 or to 600 depending on the scope. So let's look at an instant here. So I think I've explained that if the contractor's actual cost is 400,000, normally is being paid the 400K with the agreed fee for the management fee. However, if the contractor spend above, which for example 600,000, the client pays 500,000, and the contractor is allowed to bear the 100K loss. The contractor bears the financial risk in the guarantee maximum price. So what are the key features here? There is a greater cost certainty and cost control in the project. It's most suitable when the design is not fully complete. Another types of contractual arrangements is the schedule of rate. Schedule of rate is applicable when the design is uncertain or complete. So as the name implies, it means that there's an agreed rate for different items of work. Although most times you don't understand the scope of the work, but they are agreed rates. And when the construction is being carried out on site, an item of work is being completed, you normally measure the work on site and get the quantities to multiply by the agreed rates. So, for example, items of work that can be agreed can be excavation, concrete, steel, block wall, and so on and so forth. One of the features of this is adopted when time is pressing, when the scope is not certain and you want to start the work on the site. It is used where a limited range of repetitive work is required. So there's a lot of excavation works, maybe for road construction, or a lot of concrete works being carried out for a concrete road or any kind of project. If it's a repetitive work, so there should be a standard rate that needs to be agreed by both parties. The next point says the contractor tenders based on the unit rate, which are to remain current for the stated time, usually 1 year. Project that takes 2 to 3 years, most times the agreed rate is usually based on 1 year, and this rate can be revised after 1 year. So that is regards schedule of rates. So schedule of rates sometimes can be called unit price, which is just an agreement between the contractor and the client. Another types of contractual arrangement is the incentive-based contract. What is incentive-based contract? This is a contract arrangement that rewards or penalizes performance based on agreed targets. So contractors' remuneration is based on performance outcome, which can relate to cost, time, quality, safety, sustainability, or client satisfaction. So let's give an example in relation to time. The normal time of completion should be December, and the contractor finishes before December, let's say October. So there is an agreed contract that if the contractor finishes early, it will be paid 10,000 per month, like that. Looking at that situation, that means the client needs to pay the contractor 20,000 for completing before the completion date. So it's a form of contract that motivates the contractor to perform very well in terms of cost, in terms of time, in terms of quality. You can base your performance on cost, time, quality. What are the key features here? So incentive may relate to cost, time, quality, as we've said earlier on. Let's move to the last contractual arrangement here. Time and material contract, hybrid agreement that combines both the cost reimbursement and the fixed price contract. We've talked about cost plus and we've talked about fixed contract. So it combines both. That's a time and material contract. So what are the features here? So as the name implies, it's very easy. It is where you pay a contractor based on the time that was used on site or based on the work that is being carried out on site. And the material contract talks about the materials that was being supplied to the site. What are the key features here? We have, this is ideal for projects where the scope of work is not defined and is valuable for flexibility in projects. Flexible is not rigid like the lump sum contract. This diagram shows us different contractual arrangements and how the risk is being shifted from the contractor to the employer. So if you look at this, in the lump sum contract, the risk is mostly on the contractor and it's kind of rigid compared to other contractual arrangements. And it has less risk on the employer. Others like schedule of rates, it has risks, minimal risks on the contractor and also some level of risk on the employers. It has like a moderate risk on the contractor and also the employer. And the one that has the least risk on the contractor is the cost plus percentage fee. Here, the contractor doesn't bear any financial risk. The financial risk is on the employer because the project is based on how much the total cost of materials, labor, and equipment with a percentage of the total cost of the construction. So which means if the contractors spend a lot, it is the responsibility of the client to pay for all those costs. The contractor doesn't bear any financial risk in this aspect. And we can see here that the owner's flexibility in contract is minimal in lump sum, which I've said earlier on, and it is very high in cost plus with percentage fee. So let's look at the relationship. We've been looking at different procurement model that we discussed in our previous videos. So we'll be linking that into our contractual arrangement. What is the relationship between the procurement model or the procurement system with the contractual arrangement? How does it relate? So, and I believe that you should know that procurement model is a precedence to contractual arrangement. You must first understand how you want to engage with the stakeholders, how you want to relate before you make contractual arrangements. So a procurement model can adopt different contractual arrangements. For example, design, bid, and build. You can use the lump sum for that kind of project. Design and construct. Procurement can use a lump sum and the guaranteed maximum price. So, and also we have the alliance. Most times alliance use the target cost where or the pain or gain share between the stakeholders. So This is very important when we understand the procurement model, the kind of procurement, how do we want to source our goods and services, how do we want to relate the relationship structure, the functional relationship, and the contractual relationship, which is very important before you set out your contractual agreement.